Yeah.
Celebrate
right.
tonight.
Happy 100.
Wow, can you believe it? 100 episodes.
A C note.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. This is our 100th episode. Well, my 100th episode. You've been here for how long now?
About 2 Halloween episodes, so that's about a little over 2 years for that time.
You, Mike?
Almost 5 years.
No.
Remember our Bob and Doug McKenzie days?
Couldn't be 5 because we started shooting after the episode was January 2014.
That was the air date for your very first episode, yes.
Yeah, so actually you're right. It's
Almost 5 years.
Later, a few months later.
It's getting close to 5 years. But anyways, I hope you like that footage. There's some footage we shot. I've been shooting at the comic conventions for the last 4 or 5 years. Show you just a little bit of footage from some of the different events we've been attending. And we've had some great times. We've had some really successful conventions and picked up some really great books over the years. And to celebrate our 100th episode, what we're going to do is we've all chosen some of our favorite books that most of them have been shown in the past, although I know Jose's showing at least a couple.
3 books.
That he's never shown before.
I've actually specifically saved them. These are books that I picked up in the recent few months. Yeah.
But you're going to love this episode because these issues we're showing are all going to be keys, or they're all going to be old, and they're all going to be really, really fantastic books.
These are special books that we picked up, and like I said, watching those videos, all that, it's like memories, great memories. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
The hunt has been all half the fun at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're all showing some of our favorite acquisitions over the last 5 years, and I guess Jose, you're going to start, right?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, here I am, very, very late to the party. I mean, people have been really, really snagging the Good Girl cover art and stuff over the last few years. I feel like I've just shown up at the party and the DJ's playing the last song, and there's a couple people dancing, and the buffet is a mess, and there's just some warm beer in a keg. I'm there for the last grasp, the last grope, but I'm making my dance. Okay, so I'm going to start off here with Junie Prom #1. This is from way back of December of 47.
Wow.
Can you remember where you were in 47? I wasn't even born. Yeah. So Good Girl books in particular, of course, are very hot at the moment with classic covers and Matt Baker covers selling for really nosebleed prices. Now, I think part of the feeding frenzy may be due to how crazy some of the pre-code horror books have been selling. Yeah, and it's making the classic Good Girl covers look dirt cheap in comparison. Now, one title, I guess, to keep your eye on for that's still a bit under the radar and thus undervalued, at least as far as Overstreet is concerned, is this series, Junie Prom. It's a teenage humor 7-issue series by Deerfield Publishing Company. Now, the title ran only from the winter of 1947-48 to August of 49. Now, the ones to look out for, issues 1 and 6 seem to be the most sought after covers in this series, but there are a couple of pretty saucy covers in the short run. Now, I know the Overstreet Guides tends to be very conservative, but really it's ridiculous. In my opinion, the entire run needs to increase by about 400%, I'm thinking, for all books in all grades, and with larger percentage increases for those 2 issues to get them at even close to present fair market values.
Really?
When I was researching this, like I said, right now I think there's 2 copies, one that's got a huge chunk out of both the cover and first page, and that's missing most of the Junie header, so really a $20 book, and a very ugly looking, very low grade copy. So if you're looking out for this book right now, the #1 issue, and that's all you can, they're scarce, but I'm trying to say they're scarce.
Very scarce, yeah.
Now, of course, this book I featured in episode 65, part 2 from June of 2017 of last year. This is a memorable book for me because, of course, it's a great Good Girl cover, but I snagged this low-grade copy, and I think it's about a VG minus, a 3.5, from the Batcave at the Toronto Comic Book Show about a year and a half ago. I have no dollars invested in this book, as it was one of several that I traded for a mid-grade copy of Batman Adventures #12 first, Harley Quinn, which I won at the raffle. I've never won anything in my life, but I won that. I made it straight to be there. He said, "Do you want to cash that in?" And I said, "Okay, I'll have that, and that."
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, Junie, get your dress on, you're going to the party, and it's going to be a slap party.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying, boys? She's
Yeah.
going in, she's going to get encased. Now, the latest 48th Overstreet price break shows only 48, 72, 142, 234, and $325 US as the 4, 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits for this book. Scarce book. I looked in the census. There's only half a dozen copies in the census. So it's really high grade, 9.4 copy. There's a 7.5 that recently sold from Heritage that a dealer bought from, and I think they sold it for around $600 US.
Yeah.
And the other handful of companies are all great, low graders. So
Nice.
perfect candidate. No money invested. I only have the slabbing costs, and it's a book that, you know, if it comes back at 3.5, should be worth at least $250, $300
For
US.
sure.
Easily.
Easily.
And obviously, it's a very nice conversation piece because how often do we get to show a book from the 1940s?
Oh, no, not very often.
Not very often. I mean, it could be a wall hanger even.
Fantastic way to start, Jose. Thanks for bringing that in.
Hoy, hoy, man.
Okay, so next I'm showing two books. I've just picked some of my random favorite books I've picked up over the last 4 years, and this was an acquisition going way back to one of my very early episodes before Jose and Mike showed up. I think I picked this up at the GTA Comic Con. I think at the time I paid about $20 for it, so it wasn't a whole lot of money. It's Action Comics number 440, and what's unique about this book is it's Mike Grell's first work on Green Arrow.
The prestige character that he has become well known for. I mean, other people argue the Warlord his own creation, but
Yeah.
no. I mean, when it comes to the superhero realm, I mean, like, you know, Neil Adams, you connect to a certain period. Batman, when you think Green Arrow, you think Mike Grell.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you know, it is a key book. I mean, it's not his very first appearance. I think that's in Legion of
Yeah.
Superheroes 100-page special.
For sure.
But again, first big artist that become basically well known or basically became the signature character for that artist. It's an important book in that sense, and it's a very cool atmospheric action comics
Yeah.
with Soup's looking a bit in the dumps there. It's a bad night, and I don't know, he's got a case of the blues, I guess.
Yeah.
But
sure.
nice looking book, and looks like it'll be very good shape too.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to meet Mike Grell a few years ago. I had him sign my Green Arrow Longbow Hunters.
The Longbow Hunter, I used to
Yeah.
have that series
wow,
too.
yeah.
That's a
So,
cool series to have. Yeah.
Very nice man. I met him at the Superfan Comic Con, which is probably the biggest disaster of Comic Con that Toronto's ever had.
Well, let's not go down the dark holes. Let's just
That's before
keep
my
it.
time.
No, seriously, you
Yeah.
need to see some of the footage. Nobody showed up at it. They spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars putting this show on. It was a brand new company, had never thrown a Comic Con before.
Wow.
And
They may never have shown another one after since then.
they're holding it at the Direct Energy Center, which is a massive facility, and nobody showed. But anyways, enough of that. Mike, what do we got underneath there? I got something else under there? I think I do.
Let's take a look, you.
Okay.
Oh, Logan's Run number 1.
I think this is something we all have.
Yeah.
Did I make a gift of this to you, or did you pick this up?
I think you bought this for me at the Fan Expo about 5 or 6 years ago.
I think
maybe
I did.
more.
That's a great memory. You know what? I think, you know,
Yeah.
as soon as you said it, I completely agree. It's one of
Yeah.
those ones where I don't know if I got you like the first 5. I know number 6 is a
You got
special
the
one.
first 5. Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's the first solo Thanos
Yeah.
story on it. But I mean, cool covers, you know.
Now,
Yeah.
it's a high-grade book. Again, it's not the most. I'm not showing the most expensive books here. I'm showing the books that I like the most because I'm a big fan of Logan's Run. I'm a big fan of the
You
series.
don't have to tell our viewers that. They know
A
that.
big fan of the films. As you've seen, I have my Logan's Run poster being out restored right now. So I've been waiting for 40 years for them to remake this bloody film, and I'm hoping that it'll eventually happen.
Well, at least you have the books. You have number 6 too now, don't you? Or no?
I do. I do
Okay,
have number
cool.
6 kicking around, but I just thought I'd show number 1 because I am probably the world's biggest Logan's Run fan. So I love this book, and for me, it's one of my centerpieces of my collection. Even though it's definitely not even the top 100 most expensive books I own, I just love it.
Okay, it's going to be a Kirby Fest. Wow, great prelude to my second segment. Mike, this is a fantastic Four issue there, man. Wow. Anilius, a split cover I can actually give a thumbs up to. Way to snag.
Man, I'm telling you, okay, this is going back to one of the big shows from our early days. This might have been the show at the Big B where I was saying, oh, the media's here, go away in our earlier episodes, or this might have been a Hagenland pickup. I think it was because I only paid $20.
So
Yeah.
you featured this
For
book
this
before?
book.
Yeah.
We did, but it was way back in the earlier episodes. You'd have to dig it out.
Go back in the archives, yeah.
Yeah. This is like when I actually did stuff in pencil. Anyway, the whole thing about this is that on the realm, you know how convenient the reports are and stuff. It's one of the most valuable books that I have due to condition, but it's also one of the most profitable books.
Well, it's every one of Kirby's better covers, that's for sure.
And just going by the cover, I have this on my screen at work. I love this cover. I know split covers can be difficult, but this one is awesome.
When it works, it works.
And I was saying, why is it so valuable versus some of the other X-Men that I have at a lower number?
Yeah.
I mean,
cover appeal.
It's got to be like an 11th appearance of maybe Silver Surfer, but it's just, I think.
Oh, you also got Galactus on the cover there.
It's got Silver
of course, the
Surfer.
centerpiece there being what's his name, Anilius.
Anilius. It's got everything going for it, man.
It's
got
a
all the
spicy Kirby
cool,
pepper, man. It's just like, it's
cover.
popping, man. And again, that nice, like, overall red cover, you're going to be able to tell any flaws, like, really, but when you get it in a higher grade and it looks really sharpish like it does here, man, wow, the things really pop.
Again, and you know me, I'm always the guy who says, the first time I showed this book, I would probably say it's more closer to a 7.5.
Yeah, you don't have to really go into grade. And all we're really
know.
doing here is showing books that are favorite acquisitions from the past. So
yeah, forget about the grade.
Because we've already
price.
done the grade thing
This
before.
is a book that I have on my screen at work.
Yeah.
Like, that's my backdrop.
Yeah,
Because it's just killer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got so much action and there's some sort of story going on in action and all the villains and good guys.
Yeah.
Everything. Love it.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, this makes my radar for when I see this book, and if it's nice shape, I'm snagging it. I don't know about you.
Me too.
Sure,
Yeah,
why not? You cannot get enough Kirby, and I'll be talking about some Kirby books right soon.
Yeah.
Great book, Mike. Thanks for bringing it in. Okay, next up we got Jose, and he doesn't disappoint. He's showing some very high-end books, and we got a real nice copy of New Gods #7. I remember when you showed this for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, in conjunction, because the big bad in the Justice League movie, of course, was none other than Steppenwolf. Yeah, New Gods, issue #7 from March of 1972. Of course, it's got the first appearance of Steppenwolf. It's also got the origin of Orion, and it's got the first origin of the New Gods as a group. Doesn't also hurt that it's also got a Darkseid cameo appearance. And there's other minor Seed henchmen, bad guys that appear in this issue. If you want to refer to those things in specific, go into our archives and check out for the episode where I featured this episode. I mean, now what I want to talk about generally more is the King, Kirby. Now, I know 52 years is a long time for almost anything, especially career as distinguished as Jack Kirby's. Now, if a quantitative analysis is enough, the job of evaluating Kirby's career is rather simple. Just count. The volume of work often stands in the foreground, particularly because no other comic artist ever produced as much as the King. Nearly 21,000 pages of comics art, enough to fill more than 2,600 average comic book stories, likely an industry record. Now, even while some collectors and fans consider Kirby an irregular or a minor comic book cover artist, his tally of just under 1,400 covers is still respectable by any standard.
For sure.
He might have also set some records, I guess, for the number of new characters created. More than 430 heroes and villains, monsters and victims that he either created outright or co-created with someone else. Now, another record for Kirby, I guess, possibly in comics, perhaps in all of periodical publishing, was his longest uninterrupted period of monthly publication, running from July 1958 to January 1978, a remarkable 19-year and 7-month span. Cal Ripken Jr., eat your heart out there. Just as remarkable was his 52-year career from 1938 to 1989, with an average of 33 pages and 2 covers every month, and then the man ramped it up. From 1955 to 1978, Kirby's average climbed to 52 pages and 4 covers every month. Now, I digress a bit here. You know, I guess, numbers aside, what I'm featuring this issue of New Gods because it, of course, contains my favorite cover from the run. Depicted on this cover are Steppenwolf, the general of Darkseid's elite, astride what could possibly be described as one of his quote-unquote dogs of war, facing off against a badass armor-clad Isaiah the Inheritor, wielding his weapon, facing off there with a rod of power astride a field composed of his warriors' corpses. How badass is this cover? The 26-page main story of New Gods 7, The Pact, tells the tale of the history of the war between New Genesis and Apocalypse, which is told in flashback. Now, The Pact is made between Isaiah and Darkseid that brings a temporary peace between the two worlds. Of course, the cherry on top of this Sunday for me personally is that both Jack and his wife Rosalind Kirby pick The Pact from New Gods issue number 7 as their personal all-time favorite story.
Very cool.
How cool is that?
Way cool.
Who am I to argue with that? Like, I mean, what else can I say? Now, the 48th edition of the Overstreet Price Guides has $36, $80, $173, and $265 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits. Now, guys, if you're out looking for this book, know that the movie's come and gone. The main factor for the first appearance of Steppenwolf has been spent. So you kind of like, watch out you don't catch a falling knife here. Try, if you're looking for it, to get the best copy you can, at least a VF. It's funny I'm showcasing this book because in the time that, I featured this thing, I've picked up this book again. It's one of those scenarios where it's so nice you buy it twice.
Nice.
I'm submitting that copy, which I paid significantly less than this copy. I'm judging it to be about a VF8 full VF copy, and I paid $100 Canadian for it. So get deals if you're looking for this book, because like I said, people who want to speculate, who haven't sold it yet, they missed the boat and they're going to try to unload it. Do not pay an overbloated price on this book because you won't be able to get out of it. I think the Overstreet values are a little light, but just know, like I said, do not pay a hefty premium over Overstreet on this purchase if you haven't got the book.
For sure, for sure.
Sweet.
Fantastic book, Jose. Thanks for bringing it in. Okay, so I'm up next. I'm showing a twofer because I'm not quite as long-winded as Jose, so I run through my books pretty quick. And again, two of my favorite acquisitions of the last, I'm not even going to say 4 years, because this Taskmaster I actually picked up in the very late 80s, I believe. I actually picked it up off the comic rack, and the reason I've never shown it is because it's not really a very good grade. There is some serious damage, some wrinkling, some bent. The cover had, yeah. It's more than just text. The cover is actually, it looks like it's been scrunched in someone's hand. I've obviously flattened it, but I love the book, and I do intend at some point to get another copy in a higher grade, but I mean, look at that cover, that John Byrne first appearance of Taskmaster, and I don't think I've ever seen a nicer cover than that. What do you think?
It's a fantastic cover, but then again, who am I to say anything about the master, John Byrne? I mean, fantastic. I mean, I grew up with the X-Men, John Byrne. That was my X-Men, in the same way that I kind of grew up with, Romita Sr. doing Spidey. So, I mean, classic cover. It is, generally tough to find because there's a lot of issues with the spine on this one. Yours has got ticks from wear, but apparently registry is a problem and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And, you can find higher grade slab examples for reasonable prices, but again, it's a character that, it's so speculative that, buy the best copy that you feel comfortable with. Just don't pay a big premium on this book because there's a lot of copies out there.
Oh, for sure, for sure. What do you got?
Solid color is going to show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful book. It's just I've got a crappy copy of it. I need to get a better one. Okay, what do we got underneath there, Mike?
What do we have underneath?
Okay. You knew I was going to show this one because this was a Grail book that I'd looked for a very, very long time. I finally found a copy of it at Pendragon on Lakeshore there at a very reasonable price. I think at the time I spent, $100. I think is what he charged.
Fair market value at the time for it.
You told me it was there, right?
Well, yeah, because...
And I went with you.
You were hunting for it and said...
And
I don't have the money for it. I'm going to let my Ghost #1 Ghost #1 fan,
Pick it up, yeah.
Pick
so,
it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember going with him, and he knew exactly where it was. So he goes in there, goes right for the bin, pulls it out, shows it in my face, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I knew this was
Look
kind
what
of
I
here.
got.
Yeah, look what I
like,
got.
Like nothing. Like
This
he
is the
just
first.
took it out by
I know.
himself.
This is the first consensus book. He picked it up first. Mike, I think, picked it up second. I picked it up last, but last is not necessarily always the least. I picked up a CG Seed 8.0 copy at one of the big cons. I can't remember if it was Fan Expo or Toronto Comic Con for $100 Canadian. Man, it's like wow.
Yes.
I can say sweet on that deal.
Yeah.
We told you that story already.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we all have this book, so we each have a tale to
We
tell
all
on
have
this one.
We all have a copy.
We also have a ghost tale.
Yeah. And again, one of my favorite series. Anybody who's watched us do this for the last 4 years knows that we like showing these books. And yeah, I can't say enough about it. Definitely one of my favorite acquisitions for the last 4 years.
Sweet.
I knew this one was coming. I had a feeling you were going to show this one.
Well, here's the thing, might have been on the show a little longer than High End Jose and stuff, but combined, I am the junior. I have very little education. Basically, I started showing when I started collecting. I did not collect in the 70s and 80s, or even the 90s,
Yeah.
or even the early 2000s. I'm very junior.
Yeah, you got into the
So,
hobby late. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of proud of myself that I walked into BMV. Used to be my favorite dig, probably still is, and saw this.
This was a steal, if I remember correctly. You practically
It
stole
was-
this book.
Well, basically, it's like it's an old Flash. I know it's an old Flash. There's something about the Flash. What is it about the Flash? The thing is, it's Flash, and the fact is that the Flash starts at 105. Before that, it was Flash Comics. Those are
Yeah.
way
Going back to the
and
golden
huge
age for
difference.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way different. So I said, this has got to be an early Captain Cold. I didn't even know at the time. I just said, you know what? For that price, I think, yeah, I'm gonna take it home. And surprise, surprise, when I did the research on it and go, bingo, baby, I just scored big time.
I think one of the giveaways was the 10-cent price on that book.
Exactly.
10 cents.
10
It
cents.
has 10 cents. And
a 10
it's
cent
one of my
cover.
only. I only have a few. You have a lot more. I only have a few 10-cent covers. It was a 10-cent. Captain Cole. I said, this has got to be an early. I didn't even know that it was his second appearance. I just
Yeah.
said, it's got to be an early appearance. And sure
And
enough,
what
it's
did you
his
pay for it?
Oh, dear Lord. What did I pay for Captain Cold? Oh, my God. I paid, in U.S. dollars,
Yeah.
$45.
45 bucks.
So
yeah.
about $60 Canadian sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with exchange rate.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a steal.
You
That's
give
a
it
Definitely
steal.
underpriced. Very
$5.
underpriced.
It's a couple $100 that book, man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, tasty cover, man. Like
Murder. I don't know what he was. I don't know. I'm so happy.
oh, you should be for that price. You should be over the
So
moon.
happy. I've got a few. Not my first Flash. I had bought a couple ones from the 70s
Yeah.
and.
But not
you know,
like this one.
And a cover appeal one from the 70s.
Yeah.
And then score.
Score big time.
Fantastic book, Mike. Definitely one of your better scores, that's for sure. Okay, so the first time I saw this book featured anywhere, I saw it on the Comic Book Man. I think it was only the second or third year, and I eventually figured that one of us would pick it up, and guess who ended up being the man who picked it up? Surprise, surprise.
It could have well been Mike. You never know. He's got a big run of.
Fantastic Four guy, and somebody else.
Well, get chopping on here, man. This should be like like Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, like from High Fidelity, the movie.
I've seen it before, but not in grades that I would live with.
Okay,
So
I
that's
can
the
live with
thing,
that. You
right?
know what? It's gotten a little bit of heat now that Disney has bought Fox and it's got the Fantastic Four back in the fold. So let's get right into this one, of course. For you on the know, Fantastic Four 51. The key factor is it's a classic story from June of 1966. Yeah, coming immediately after the classic trilogy that introduced, of course, Galactus and the Silver Surfer in issues 48 through 50. This book epitomizes an incredibly fruitful period in the collaboration between writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby. This issue comes at the exact midpoint of Kirby's 102-issue run on the Fantastic Four title, starting, of course, on issue number 1 back from November of 61 and ending on September 1970 with issue 102, when he left for the distinguished competition over at DC, thus ending the longest consecutive run on a title, another industry record for the King. Yeah, this man, this monster, is an example of an evil twin story. Now, as such, it could have been a commonplace tale of a type all too familiar in popular culture. But Lee and Kirby, they rise above the obvious and renovate the cliche. Now, of course, the tale opens with the Thing alone in the city, consumed by despair over his fate to live his life as a monster, wishing desperately to be freed from the curse. Now, of course, he gets his wish when he falls victim to an unnamed scientist who envies the great power that Ben Grimm wants to give up, and who turns himself into the Thing, returning Grimm to human form. Now, the imposter usurps Ben's place in the Fantastic Four, planning to take over for the team from Reed Richards, a man he hates. Now, it's as if, in the guise of the imposter, Ben's dark side has come to life, freed from his human conscience. But then, Reed, blinded by the single-minded pursuit of knowledge, becomes trapped in the negative zone, the strange dimension he has just discovered. Moved by witnessing Richard's own selflessness and courage, the imposter sacrifices his life by entering the negative zone to save Richards. Back on Earth, the real Ben reverts back to his monstrous form, and Reed, realizing what's happened, speculates that in taking on the Thing's form, the imposter had also discovered within himself Ben's great courage. This is a tale about the capacity for heroism within every man, the potential for redemption even for the direst sinner. This memorable story made an indelible impression on a number of youngsters who later became comic book professionals, including writer-artist John Byrne and Walter Simonson, and writer-editor Jim Shooter. Quote, "If this is an art form," says Byrne, "if we can be that lofty, then Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have created a masterpiece there," unquote. And what else can I say to that other than to say, yeah, ditto, enough said. The 48th edition of the Overstreet Price Guide shows $75, $175, $388, and $600 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits for this book. You can see I paid 120 US, which at the time was 150 Canadian. What can I say? I've seen this price way above that. At least at the last Toronto Comic Book Show, I saw there was a slightly better graded copy, and I would grade this at about a 5.55, so a very good fine minus.
Fair enough.
I saw a 6.65 for 350, so I mean that's not a deal. I would argue that do not pay more than 100% above price for the grade that you're looking at. That would be topping out for me. So like I said, at a 5, it's something obviously under $75. I paid a premium at the time, and for this classic and this good of a story, you're gonna pay a premium. What that premium is, I'll leave it to determine. But like I said, in my personal experience, I would not pay 100% above guide price for a grade.
For sure, yeah.
Damn, I haven't read that one yet. You told them.
Well, if you want, just rip it open later, and while you go to the washroom, you can take it in there with you.
I'm gonna take it in the washroom.
Hey, Mike, you've had 50 years to read this story, so now I've read it for you.
I'm gonna take the book and read it in the tub right now.
You go in while you're taking a dump, you can read it.
Yeah. There you go.
But like Jose said, just like Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, or Echo the Bunnymen's Ocean Rain, or
all those masterpieces,
or Flock of Seagulls' Story of a Young Heart. This is what we consider a classic, and I'm really happy about you bringing this in.
Not just my opinion. I mean, it's designated. It's got a line listing of its own on the Overstreet Guide. What's the key factor? Classic story.
Classic story. Thanks, Jose. Fantastic book.
Keep my eye open for it.
Okay, now one of my pickups from this one goes way back. I picked this one up in like 1986. Just finishing high school, I think the last year of high school, I paid $6 whole for this book, and at the time that was big money. Star Wars #1.
Yeah, well, I gave a satisfying when I finally picked up mine. It was one of those, the H that you'd be waiting to scratch. And now from the #1s from the 70s, the only 2 ones that I have that I don't have, but I need to get a Luke Cage Hero for Hire #1 and Miss Marvel #1. Yeah. So there's a host of other minor ones, but Star Wars #1 was always a big one that when you always taunting me and saying, when are you gonna pick it up? And I finally did. It was on the back burner, but I finally picked it up. Paid $100 Canadian. Of of course, a significantly premium over your whole $6 there,
Yeah.
way back 30 plus years ago. But it's still a classic by Howard Chaykin and tough black cover. I mean, you know, fair market values for higher grade copies. You know, for 9/8, I mean, you're talking 5 figures, probably over $1,000
For sure.
for sure. But I mean, you can pick up a 9.0 for about $300, something like that.
I
Exactly.
still don't have one yet.
Well, look what you get. You get the first appearance of Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, you name it, Princess Leia.
In other words, the entire first movie cast,
Yeah.
first appearance, this book. I mean, you got to have it.
My opinion, no collection is complete without Star Wars #1, Volume #1.
Oh,
So what else you got underneath? What else do I have underneath
you
there?
have underneath
Yeah.
there. Wow.
Okay, yeah. A more recent pickup. This picked up at the Toronto Comic Book Show, 8 or 9 months ago. Not going to spend too much time on it, but what do you think?
Well, the dealer there, the Batcave, is viewing this book in its highest condition. They're saying it's a near mint plus, so they're saying it's a 9/8.
Yeah.
It could be, it very well could be, but you know what? It's a tasty cover. I like it. It's an anthology here, so you're getting one Alien's tale. There's other tales in this book, but it is a good cover there with obviously the main emphasis on the alien itself there. But you're saying it's in comics. The first printed appearance
Yeah.
of the aliens is in that heavy metal. Yeah.
This is the first appearance of the alien in comic book form, but we covered this about 8 months ago. If you want the first appearance of Alien, it's a heavy metal magazine, and I
So
don't...
one shot from, I believe, 79, something like that,
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
first movie came out. If you want to go back in the archives, I talk about it in length when I featured
Mm-hmm.
the Dark Horse comic #1 there, of the #1 of the 6 issue series there, which has the first Newt and the first kind of like kind of appearance of those characters. But you know what? The Alien's always been
Yeah.
great covers. Dark Horse, I mean, you don't see him as much, so I mean, it's a good, cool book to have.
Yeah, definitely one of my more favorite acquisitions I've picked up in the last 4 years, and it doesn't cost that much. $35. Hell, most people can afford that, I would say.
Yeah, but as I pointed out, this Dark Horse percent to make a case of why it's the first appearance of aliens when I talk about my book. But again, if you want to go refer
All
back
right,
to that,
dude,
go to the
whatever.
archive.
Oh,
Go to the
another
archive.
All right.
Another argument.
Great book, Paul. Thanks for bringing it in. That's fantastic. You got such a great collection, Paul.
There.
Okay, Mikey's up next, and he's rocking the key here. I remember when you brought this.
Oh, yeah. This is probably the most I've paid for a singular book, I think.
Well, pulling no punches here. A book that needs no introduction. She's there, you know. I get a backlit against the dark and stormy night. Of course, this is first Elektra, and this is a huge key from when Miller was doing his most fabulous work. The work that he's actually gotten the most accolades for, I would argue, his run on Daredevil.
I'm jealous, Mike.
Yeah, I
Second
don't.
most, actually, I was inspired from looking at his work in the Hulk stuff that he had done. And I'd heard that this was his first book. I was a newbie.
Yeah.
And he's like, I gotta have this key. My local haunt, as I had always said, look up. They've got books up there sometimes, and sure enough, that's why I picked this up.
So this is from Altered States Comics.
This is from Altered States Comics, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, boys, and thank you very much.
It's a great book. You've got the whole Miller run, if I'm not mistaken. You said you have the whole Miller run, and this is one of the big keys there. Like,
One of the big keys, I got like...
the big key, I would argue, actually.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There might be one or something like that.
I mean, the very first issue, I think, which is 158, I could be something mistaken like that.
158 and one...
That's got some value. The Death of Elektra's got some value.
Yeah,
There's some really good covers there. Where No Mr. Nice Guy comes to mind. But, I mean, his whole run is top notch.
It's a very serious book you got
Yeah.
there, Mike.
If I've paid, close to the value and it hasn't budged a bit, I mean, I've definitely made out through the cons by buying the 20-cent covers, which are beautiful, like in the 90, from number 90 and around that range and stuff.
Well, yeah, when he was
like that,
teamed
where
up with the
I've
Black
got
Widow. I liked some of
Yeah,
those covers. I have some of
covers are
those.
Great, those window pane
Yeah.
covers and stuff.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. So I was just,
First appearance of Elektra.
first appearance of Elektra, I had to have it. I mean, I like his work. I mean, ethically, was he the dude we were talking about in earlier episodes? No, that was someone else. Anyway, but I know who you're talking about. Okay, so anyway, love it.
Fantastic book, Mike. Thanks for bringing it in.
Enough said.
And the reason why we want to make this 100 episode so special is we're all showing special books that are special to us. And I don't think we got too many books that are very much more special than this one right here, Jose. And if I'm not mistaken, you haven't shown this book before, have you? This is the first time. You never showed this in one of our early episodes.
No, I held it back. This is, of course, needs no introduction, but I'll introduce it anyway. Of course, it's Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3 from July of '63. Of course, the first appearance of Dr. Octopus.
Wow.
Otto Octavius, yeah. So, comic book legend Steve Ditko, he passed away in his 90th year earlier this year on or about June the 29th. Now, to say that, of course, he was an amazing talent and somewhat of an enigma are both true and an understatement, in my opinion. Of course, he was the co-creator of Spider-Man, of Doctor Strange, and a host of other characters like Blue Beetle, Hawk and Dove, the Creeper, Speedball, and Captain Atom. Now,
Yeah.
I started collecting comics when, of course, he had already left Marvel. Yeah, when I started getting the back issues of Spider-Man that were done by Ditko, I don't think I really appreciated how good the man really was. I had grown up with John Romita Sr. doing Spidey, and it was kind of a clash of styles that I had to grow into.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ditko's style had always seemed stuck in the 1940s to me. The men's suit, the women's hairstyle and dresses. Now, I'm sure that Mary Jane Watson would have looked nothing like the image that pops up into your mind when you hear her name if Ditko had introduced her. Steve Ditko, in my opinion, couldn't draw an attractive female under threat of torture.
That's not nice.
He just simply couldn't do it. I'm just calling a spade a spade.
That's not okay.
John Romita Sr. drew beautiful women and people in general, and that clean look was where Spider-Man had to go for mass appeal. You can bet that Stan Lee knew that, okay? So, no, I have always believed that one of the most overvalued books in the Amazing Spider-Man issue run was issue number 2. I could really never understand the gap in price between Spider-Man's issue number 2 and number 3, my copy here. Now, that price gap had always been there, but over a 50-plus year time period, in my opinion, Dr. Octopus has become so much more of an important villain than the Vulture in the canon of Spider-Man and in the Marvel Universe itself.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3 never made any real headway in the Overstreet Guide, even during the build-up to his movie appearance in my opinion, the best Spider-Man movie to date, the Sam Raimi directed number 2 movie with Alfred Molina as Otto Octavius.
I agree. Yeah.
So, okay, so let's look briefly at the merits of the 2 books in question here. Amazing Spider-Man number 2 features the Vulture's first appearance in a split book. The first half has the Vulture story, yay, and the second half has the Terrible Tinker, nay.
Yay.
Yeah, the Vulture, of course, goes on to be a long-standing villain for Spider-Man with a penchant for robbing banks and jewel heists. Now, he is also a founding member of the Sinister Six. The Vulture, of course, appeared in the most recent reboot of the Spider-Man franchise, Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017. Now, Michael Keaton was great in the part. He killed it. The book itself, of course, has a long-held reputation for being difficult to find in grade by both collectors and dealers alike. Now, thinking of my copy number 3 here, it's the first full-length feature in the Spider-Man title, and of course, it also features the first appearance of Dr. Octopus. Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four also guest stars in the issue. And Dr. Octopus, of course, goes on to become one of Spider-Man's most deadly foes and the leader of the Sinister Six. He dreams big world conquest, destruction type of ideas. Now, I personally have him placed in Spider-Man's top 3 villains of all time, along with the Green Goblin. You guys can take your pick from the rest of his villains for the number 3 slot.
Yeah, yeah.
The book itself, of course, is a long recognized Marvel key. So, I'll break it down for you. I will give the full run of the latest 48 Overstreet Guide prices from 2 all the way to 9.2 for the 2 books. Starting with Amazing Spider-Man number 2 First Vulture, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits are $450, $900, $1350, $3825, $8,663, and $13,500 US.
That's for number 2.
For number 2. Now, for my copy of number 3 here, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits are $367, $734, $1,100, $3120, $70,000, $60,000, and $11,000 US.
Wow.
So you can see that there is a discrepancy and a disparity there. Now let's finish off by saying that I snagged my low grade copy here, and it is a low grade. I think I'm just on the dartboard. I would grade this raw copy to be about a good book, a 2.0. Now we all know that good books, there's nothing good about them. What I will say, and I always repeat it, buy the book, not the grade. It's got a couple of woogers. It's got one by the cameo by Spider-Man near the top left corner there. It's got some heavy wear along the spine, honest wear from thing. The main thing you can say from the cover, it's missing the bottom right corner. So that kind of hurts it. But what it doesn't have any major flaws, blemishes, imperfections along the main picture plane. The main picture plane being, of course, Spidey and Doc Ock in that classic cover. I paid $250 Canadian at the time for it, $200 US. As you can see, currently fair market is about $375 US or $500 Canadian. So you can say, well, it's worth 500 Canadian. I paid only $250. Well, there's a caveat to that. It's missing the Steve Ditko Spider-Man insert in it. So, like Batman 181 with that pinup, it hurts the price by about half. So, if a raw 2.0 copy with the pinup inside, it probably would be worth 500 Canadian. My copy still, I think, I mean, if I were to sell it, I could make some money. I think it's still worth three and a quarter. Maybe you could push a little bit more. But, you know, make $50, $75 and I wouldn't have the copy. So why would I do that? I've got an Amazing Spider-Man 3, first Doc Ock and fourth Spider-Man. I don't think I'll be getting Amazing Fantasy 15 or issues 1 or 2 anytime soon. So
there you go.
Here we go. My lowest Spider-Man and probably my lowest Spider-Man ever to date.
I don't think you'll be seeing a number 2 or number 1 on this show, at least not anytime soon. Fantastic book, Jose. The fact that we're showing an Amazing Spider-Man number 3 on this show is, wow. I never thought we'd get something like this. When Mike showed the first Sandman, I thought that was about as low as we were ever going to get.
The boy left me some room. I was just able to sneak 1 issue lower.
You bastard.
Anyways, fantastic book, Jose. Thanks for showing it tonight. Fantastic.
Big hoy hoy on that one.
Okay, I'm up next, and for quite a couple of years there, me and Mike would go over to Pendragon Comics on Boxing Day, because he used to have the Boxing Day sale.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome
every single book was half price, 2 for 1, or was it half price?
50% off.
Except for what behind glass, the stuff behind glass, he would give you a little bit of a deal, but and this was one of the ones that I picked up probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's a Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. #1, and it's very nice condition. Obviously, you can see from the spine there, it's slightly off-center. The #1 is slightly disappearing. So
it's got a bit of the 2-cent factor going on there, Paulie.
Exactly.
But that's miswrapping. Not quite. You can kind of see the one.
You had a real 2-cent one.
So is it a perfect copy? No, it's not. I don't know whether you'd call it a fine, maybe. I'm not, I don't like to grade because I don't, but I'm happy with it. And considering at the time, before years ago, I paid $50 for it, it's worth considerably much more than that now. And I always liked this book because of the retro kind of 60s kind of look that, so that's probably what appealed to me most about this cover and about the Nick Fury #1, and one of my very early, more expensive books that I picked up.
Well, man, if this is most people's first exposure to something like Steranko, man, it only gets better than that. But having said that, it is probably my favorite Steranko cover. And not saying something, because that's hard for me. But yeah, again, for our viewers, this is a consensus book. We each have it, minus the CGC VF 8.0 copy. You guys have good raw copies for that book too, though. You picked up yours from Sandy, I think, from Retro. Yours for this copy or no?
Yes, I did. We had to haggle because he didn't want to. He's collecting. I know. It's the one that's gonna pop.
Yeah.
So he's.
You gotta love the psychedelic 60s, eh?
Yeah.
One of the best covers I have in my entire collection. Not saying something.
Yeah. So what do you got? What do I have underneath there, Mike? What am I going next there?
Here.
Okay.
Oh, I remember when you bought this.
Yeah, the House of Mystery. Now the reason I bought this one is because, at the time, nothing particularly special about this book except for the fact that I didn't own a 10-cent cover in my collection, in my entire collection. And so I went to the Fan Expo, no, I think it was a Toronto Comic Con about 4 years ago, specifically with on a mission that I was going to come out with a 10-cent cover, and I didn't give a shit what I came out with. I just wanted one.
That's the one way to collect,
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh, no. But I wanted one that was in decent condition. I knew I wasn't going to pick up a 10-cent Spider-Man because it's just too expensive.
Well, no, there's no such thing as 10-cent Spider. That's
know
another
what I'm-
point.
you know what
I know
I'm
what you're
saying.
saying,
Yeah.
but you know what? This is a solid book condition-wise. I mean, it pops, man. That black is black. I don't see any outstanding blemishes.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to have a few little hairline kind of things along the spine. I
Mm-hmm.
can see from here, from about a foot or two. But, you know, it's still a 10-cent book. That makes it, I think, it's probably going to be about 1960 or 61.
61, you're correct.
61
Yeah.
on that. But you know what? You like the horror stuff. I mean, it's right up your alley.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why kind of it could be special in the sense that you love all that horror stuff much more than
Yeah.
I do in that sense, and you really collect it. So for you, your first 10-cent horror book is going to have a special
the first
place.
10-cent book I
Ever
owned.
have, yeah. So I mean, yeah,
And
congratulations.
I remember you walking up to the guy. It was close to the end of the day.
Almost at the
You said-
close.
How are you doing? And he said, I'm exhausted. The dealer said, I'm exhausted.
So
Well,
you,
And then I stood back and let Paul do his
Yeah.
wheeling and dealing, and he offered.
I don't think it was an expensive book at the time. I think he only wanted 40 bucks.
But you wanted a little less,
And I said-
you got it.
I said 30. And he said, yeah, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
Here, give me the... And so, yeah, I got 10 bucks off. I don't usually lowball by 25%. But at the end of a Comic-Con, on a Sunday night, you can get away sometimes with stuff like that.
hey, one less book to take home.
Exactly.
Like, that's yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so that's why that book's in there. It's not a key, it's just cool, in my opinion.
Sweet.
Here's a cautionary tale from Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Kids, boys, and girls, don't do drugs.
Say no.
Take away, Mike.
Just so you know. Again, okay, from Planet Hobby.
Phil Store.
Phil Store, a guy.
Okay, before we start into that, let's say, first of all say what this is. This is one of the most seminal drug issue. Well, this is the seminal drug issue.
Absolutely.
As far as Green Lantern goes, this has become almost like a legendary book. A book that everybody wants. Guy shooting heroin on the front
Speedy
cover.
actually shooting some smack.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, okay, we've already spoken about how it has been mentioned in the DC documentaries with Kirby and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
This is a book that you, if you're starting to step up into big
Big boy books.
key books,
Yeah.
this is a starter book because obviously you can spend a lot of money on a big key book. But I mean, this is an entry-level key book. And I got this as a bundle from Phil. He basically had these two books up on a wall, or he had this one up on the wall.
The
for
one and the
longest
one with the
time.
syringe. The two drug books. You bought them both at the same
No,
time.
no, I didn't. I got the other one later.
Okay.
So I got this one off of him.
Mhm.
No, I did get both of them.
You got both
Sorry.
at the same time. Yeah.
I apologize. The thing about this is that I'd been in there perusing so many times that I've actually read it before I even purchased it.
Yeah,
'Cause you
yeah.
take it out and show it to me all the time.
Yeah.
And he'd like, oh, go ahead, take a look. And I'd actually had read it before I even purchased it.
Mm-hmm.
He has a rule. Some dealers' rules are different than other rules.
Henry, get to the
whatever.
point.
Basically, he doesn't let anything sit on the wall for more than a year. Other
Yeah.
than that, he'll drop the hammer and,
Mhm.
and blow it out. So I managed to be there at the right time, at the right place,
Yeah.
and got it for a great deal. As a package, a bundle, the 85 and 86.
Yeah.
Very happy.
I was going to show this book tonight myself, but I knew you were going to show it, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, these two issues, one with him shooting on the front cover, and the other one with the syringe, are my two of my favorite acquisitions of the last 4 years as well.
Yeah.
And any series collector wants the two Green Lantern drug issues in their collection. And I wouldn't call it an entry-level book. This book is getting pretty
Oh,
expensive.
at high grade, yeah, you're paying some serious
At
bucks.
the time, they were saying it was.
Yeah.
So, but
What do you got under there, Mike?
love it. And then of course,
Well, I
Yeah.
showed 3, you're showing your 4.
I'm showing my number 4.
Tit for tat, that's fine.
It's obvious for Sandman. What can I say about that? We were just blown away by how much room you can get by buying a hot book,
Flipping it, and then
flipping it, and getting it something just spectacular. And plus, Sandy's just been so fantastic as far as giving you room.
Oh yeah, I mean this was perfect. Like you had a hot book that was hot and in demand in the market. You had it right in the sense that you spent them extra money and you had it slabbed, and the opportune time that this comes through his way. So between cash and the bundle deal for that hot book, which was the first year Aquaman 11, you find yourselves with a damn pretty good copy. I would say a good, very good at least, if not a very good minus. So it's a 3.35 at least of Spider-Man #4, first Sandman, 5th appearance of Spider-Man himself. For the price that you paid for this, it's wow. You got yourself a sweet deal.
You talking about a book I paid $20 for, 60 to get slabbed. Then it got hot, traded it in, and I think he only charged me $150 cash on top of that.
That's a beautiful book.
I said, everyone, just shut up, stop, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I'm taking that all day.
Have you thought about sending that in to get it graded? Or?
I don't really grade anything right now. I will consider a little farther down the road.
Because this is probably your best book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely it is, right?
It's amazing.
Even if it came back a full, like, if I'm saying 3 and Jose's saying 3 to 3.5, if it came back a 2, I'm still got tons of room on it.
It's an amazing Spider-Man
we've seen a 2
#4.
tonight. This is at least a 3. So it's a good book. It's a good, very good book. Yeah.
I love it.
Fantastic book, Mike, and definitely in the last 4 years, my favorite of your acquisitions, I'd have to say. This is beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, Sandy, and you saw how blown away we were. Just wow, I can't believe we were just blown away when I walked out of the actual store with that. What? No one's chasing after me? Are you kidding me? Wow, we did that. Wow.
Yeah, split cover. I don't hate.
Great book, Mike.
True.
Great book.
Yes, yes.
Okay, these next 2 books are mine. They're also the last 2 books I'm going to show for the night. And I bought both these books at the same time. These are both pickups from Sandy at Retro Rare Collectibles. And he got them in, and he gave me a really great price on them, and I just couldn't say no. These books don't really need a whole lot of introduction. This is Iron Man #1. And to tell you the truth, I never thought I'd ever own a book like this. Probably, no, definitely my most expensive book in my collection. By no means the first appearance of an Iron Man, that's for sure. Jose, maybe you can expand on that, but I'm so proud of this book.
Oh, yeah, and I don't mean to deflate your balloon. #1 issue from May of '68. Now, however, you've asked me before, do you have this book? Well, I ended up picking up that one-shot Iron Man Submariner #1 because it's a historically important book.
Right,
it's the bridge book for both Iron Man #1 and Submariner #1. But I always thought that this was one of the more grossly overvalued books of Marvel's Silver Age. Now, having said that, I still feel that it's an okay investment for the present, particularly for CTC slabbed investor for 2 main reasons. One, of course, is basic economics demand. No superhero has benefited more from his movie appearances than Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. has owned the role and made Iron Man hip and super cool, even better than he is in the comics. And I see no cooling off period for the immediate future. And number 2, of course, it's an excellent inspired cover by Gentleman Gene Colan that would add value to any comic book. A great cover really helps on a slab book. But let's get to why I feel it's overvalued. Now, #1 on that is...
Hey, don't be dissing my comic book.
Now, it's a #1 issue, but like, I mean, when you think about it, your reference there, I mean, when you take into account the Tales of Suspense appearances, plus about 16 appearances on the Avengers, and then crossovers, etc., Iron Man #1 was published at a time where there were over 80 appearances for him under his belt. Okay? Now, 2, I think this book is not a true relaunch. Like Captain America issue 100, this is in fact the last episode of a lengthy storyline that began in Tales of Suspense. In Captain America 100, you have a 3-page detailed origin of how Captain America returns to the Marvel Universe via the Avengers. And it's woven neatly into the storyline. In your book, Iron Man #1, we get a well-done conclusion to the Iron Man versus AIM storyline, however, we get a 3-page recap on his origin lazily tacked on at the end of the book.
You saying lazy? You calling this book lazy?
Now, when this book was published, in May of '68, I can think of only 4 Marvel comics that are valued higher than this book. Incredible Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men #1, X-Men #94, and Silver Surfer #1. Now, all those books contain important character introductions, original origin stories, or are new relaunches or relaunches of a comic series. Iron Man #1, not so much. Now, the only other book that wasn't a relaunch but a minor change in title is Thor 126, in which the title Journey into Mystery was dropped. Now, the balance from one issues 125 to 126 on Thor is very similar to Captain America issue 100. I don't see why Iron Man #1 would still be a third higher in price than either Thor 126 or Captain America 100, given the positive push those two characters have also received at the movies. And lastly, well, I think it's maybe just Overstreet, vis-a-vis their systemic annual price increases, which you hear so many dealers moan and groan about. Iron Man #1 has been higher than both Captain America 100 and Thor 126, which I think are the best comparisons almost since day one, and I really have no idea why.
Huh.
Did he just shit all over my comic book?
He just crapped all over you. Dude, this is a party. What are you doing?
Yeah, I was just
Art
showing this and
Cooper.
telling everybody how this is my favorite book, and you just came in there and
And
just
think it's
dumped
overvalued in the market. That's all I'm
Okay,
saying.
all
I'm not
right.
saying it's a bad acquisition, and investment-wise, it's a pretty good acquisition.
Well, I'll take Jose's word for it. He's probably correct. He's a pretty knowledgeable guy, but he's still
When
an
it comes to
asshole.
that.
What do you got underneath there for me? What do you got underneath there?
Oh my lord. What
Okay, so you want to dodge this one too? You want to give me some attitude on this book
I think
as well?
I've said enough for tonight.
I think so, you punk.
Okay, this is my Captain Marvel #1. Picked up the same day from Retro Rare Collectibles again. Shown it before, not to spend a lot of time on it. It's the first appearance or the first premiere issue of Captain Marvel. And be honest, did you like the green uniform or did you like the change?
No, I've been on the record. I like the red and blue uniform.
Yeah.
Of course, we know with Marvel superheroes, I think issue 18 is the first appearance of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So again, we have a #1 issue and a very good-looking #1 issue again. But did you get a bundle special because you bought Iron Man and this one together?
Yes,
or no?
I bought the two of them together. I think for the two books, again, I got to go back. It's been a while.
You didn't pay over $300 for the Iron Man, I don't think.
No, I think the two of them together,
More.
he charged me $325 for the pair.
That sounds about right. And if
Yeah.
that's the price, that was a pretty good steal, man.
That's a
'cause-
good
Yeah.
deal.
Well, VG copies are going for about between $4 and $450. If you get
Yeah.
into the higher grades, 9.2 slab 9.2s are getting $1,500 US all day long.
Yeah.
Now, for like I said, I mean, it's one of those things where the higher grade you want to go, you can go that way. But I mean, other than being again, not knocking it again, but other than being a #1 issue, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have a lot of legs other than that. A nice cover, a nice #1 issue, but again, not enough other meat on the bone on that bone.
Well,
but
the meat is stipulated right at the top there. It
Big
says
premiere.
Marvel Spaceborne Super. It says Marvel Spaceborne Superhero.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So he was born in space, and it's a #1. So what more could you ask for?
Well, I'd like a first appearance, but if you can't get that, I mean, what can you do, right?
Okay, Mr. Snooty guy.
I am the key guy. I mean, I cannot help being what I am. It's in my nature. I want
Okay.
key issues.
Well, I love my Captain Marvel #1, and I love my my Iron Man
Iron
#1.
Man #1,
And
yeah.
if you don't like it, you can just go straight to hell.
Absolutely, I'd be proud to have him.
Okay, so Jose's bringing it home tonight in our 100th anniversary. I can't think of a better way to finish it off than a book like this. And considering the way you just shredded my two books, I'd love to be disrespectful about this book, but there's no real way I can, is there?
I'm not giving you any ammo to shoot with. I'm giving you can have the gun, but if you have no ammo, you're shooting blanks.
This is a major key.
Yeah.
It's a very expensive book. You've never shown it before on this show.
Nope.
And wow, Jose, this is absolutely unbelievable. So, first of all, where'd you pick it up?
This was at a con. I mean, yeah, I think it was
It was a Toronto comic book show, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably, yeah. Batman 232 from June of
I've
'71.
got more Batmans than everyone put together, and yet he pulls out the biggest key.
Yeah, first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, it's also got the second appearance of his daughter Talia. It's got the origin of Batman and Robin retold yet again, and it's the last 15-cent issue on the title. Now, the 1940s gave us most of the Batman villains we've come to know and love. Joker and Catwoman in 1940, the Penguin in 41, the Riddler in 48. Now, a few more modern foes have stuck and can now count themselves among Batman's most popular, namely Bane in 93 and Hush in 2003. Now, it's funny, but in that 45-year gap between the Riddler and Bane, I can only really think of two new villains that should be counted among Batman's greatest. Poison Ivy from 1966, issue 181, and the big bad dude depicted on this cover, Ra's al Ghul, in 1971. Now, as a matter of fact, all of the villains I've mentioned here have made Batman's top 10 villains list as compiled by Newsarama. I'd also like to point out that Ra's al Ghul finished at #2 in the list, and I'm not going to insult you by mentioning who came in at #1. Okay? Ra's al Ghul also came in at number 7 in IGN's list of the top 100 villains in comics. Now, this is a classic Neil Adams cover, isn't it?
Yeah.
I personally prefer it over Adams' Two-Face cover on Batman issue number 234, and in my opinion, it's better than Adams' Detective Comics issue 411. Batman 232 is very much tied to Detective 411. Tech 411, of course, features the first appearance of Talia, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. Now, not many people may be aware of this, but Detective 411 predates Batman 232 by 1 month, with a cover date of May of 1971. In fact, Ra's al Ghul is mentioned in name in the issue. Now, of course, this explains Batman 232's story title, Daughter of the Demon, a 22-page follow-up written by Denny O'Neil and drawn, of course, by Neil Adams. Ra's al Ghul is, in my opinion, perhaps Batman's most complete villain. Most of the others have long histories of running amok in Gotham City, while our boy Ra's has ambitions that are much larger in scope and threaten humanity itself. Thanks to the Lazarus pits that rejuvenate him, Ra's has been able to live for centuries, and over this time he's amassed a wealth of knowledge, cunning, and fighting skills. He is very much the match for Batman. Just think of all the epic story arcs that cover on Ra's al Ghul: Contagion, Legacy, Tower of Babel, Death of the Maidens, and of course the epic and stellar Son of the Demon, just to name a few.
For sure, yeah.
Ra's al Ghul is such a complete character, and his history is so rich with Batman that I can only see bigger and brighter things for the character. As Batman is perhaps, in my opinion, the greatest superhero of them all, and since most of us can't afford the first appearance of his primary villain, the Joker, Batman #1 being such a huge book historically and price-wise, featuring not only the first appearance of the Crown Prince of Crime, but also of Catwoman, that I would encourage any halfway serious Bat fan to pick up the best copy you can afford of the first appearance of his second greatest villain, Ra's al Ghul.
Cool.
Yeah, the latest 48th Overstreet comic book price guides show 102, 245, 548, and 850 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price splits. I also did a lot of looking around. I look at the comic book realm, and there the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 splits are 195, 552, 617, and 630. Now, of course, I have every intention of submitting this book to CGC this fall winter.
For sure.
So I also looked at the Go Collect data for this title online. I agree generally that it's a VF or a VF plus copy, so 885 for this book condition-wise. Now, there is some price compression within these grades. 8.0 copies are selling for average about $500 US, with 8.5 copies selling $50 higher on average. At the VF near mint condition 9.0, the price goes all the way up to $800 US on average, while at the VF near mint minus 7.5, the average drop price goes to $375 US.
You're talking about slabbed copies,
Yes,
right?
Yeah. There are currently 140 universally graded copies at the VF 8.0 grade and 185 at the VF 8.5, with a total of 1,581 universally graded copies in the census. I paid $300 Canadian, my max limit for this book, which at the time was $225 US, and $20 under guide price for grades, so clearly a bit of a steal there, considering that the premiums for the Batman title currently enjoys in the marketplace. Classic book, linchpin of my Batman collection. It will get slapped.
Oh, for sure. That's for sure, yeah. So you definitely think he's one of the greatest villains of all time, right?
After the Joker, definitely.
Yeah. No.
You know,
See, I'm a big fan of the Riddler, and you never seem to give him any respect.
Yeah, I just didn't. I think he was the Rodney Dangerfield of Batman villains, man.
I
I
don't
didn't
think
get his
so. I
respect.
think
I
he's
never
pretty
found him that menacing. The stories I read
wow.
from his golden age, unfortunately, are a little bit wonky. I mean, they're very reflective of their time. I just never thought he was up there, at least top 5 material anyway.
They're writing him really well.
I guess I like the Riddler because I met him. But anyways, wow. That is fantastic, and that's definitely one of the longest episodes we've done in a while. But, of course, it's our 100th episode. We have to do something special. And I think we all showed some pretty special books here tonight. And, yeah, so 100, what do you think, guys?
Well, let's hope for the next 100 are less bumpy.
Less bumpy? I think they're okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a little better at this, and
Anyways, guys,
see what happens in 200.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, we appreciate the support. I know we only got 292 viewers, but we don't really do this because We care about whether we got the thousands and thousands of
It's a video diary for us, and the hunt, the challenge, the looking out for the stuff, the reading about it and learning, and the actual going and digging in bins. It's half the fun or more of it, and we just like to record our adventures out there.
Really, that is. It's really just a diary of our collecting whatever journey.
Yeah.
And again, most of it's comics, not all of it. Tonight, definitely all of it was comics, and yeah, so I think that we're going to end it there. And guys, again, thanks. We appreciate the support. And if you like what you saw, leave the comments, because we love reading. We'll always respond. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to respond because I work a lot, but we will definitely respond to all the comments, and we will see you next time.
Hoi hoi.
Or set some fireworks off. Special guest Mike. Yes, yes.
Yeah,